Well, hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Now, if you're new here, my name is Lindy, and all this week I am going over some old-fashioned homemaking and homesteading skills that I want to show you just a little bit about how I do it, and then maybe it'll pique your interest and you might want to try it too. And today we're going to learn about making candles. Now, if you want to be entered in the giveaway that I'm having on Saturday, all you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and every video in this series this week you like and comment. On Saturday, I'm going to draw a winner out of all of you who have kept up with me all this week. So I really appreciate you watching. And the winner is going to receive beauty cream, handmade soap, and a nice hand-stitched lavender eye pillow to keep you nice and relaxed. So today we're going to learn about making little jarred candles, and you can use these at home or you can sell them, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. So let me put an apron on, because you always have to protect your clothing, and I will turn the camera around and we'll get started. Okay, so we are going to get started, and I wanted to go ahead and let you know that I am by no means an expert at candle making. There's a lot of science that goes into this. However, I have been making them for several years, and I just enjoy having them in my home, and then I also sell them out of my tiny boutique, which a lot of you may already know about the tiny boutique, but if not, I'll have to give you a tour sometime of that. Now, there are several different types of waxes to choose from, and we're not going to get really complicated with that at all. There is the soy wax, which is a very nice wax, but I typically don't like the soy wax because to me it doesn't have a really good scent throw, and that is, you know, you can light a candle and across the room you can really smell the fragrance well. For some reason I just can't get a good scent throw when I use the soy wax, but I get a really good scent when I use this Harmony Blend wax, and this is from Candle Science. And I'm going to leave a link to their website in the description box because they are my favorite company to buy candle making supplies from. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but they do have a warehouse in Durham, North Carolina. So a lot of times if I order things, I can have them by the next afternoon, which is really nice. So let me grab, let's see. Now, one other thing to take note of, when you make candles, you definitely need a candle wax container that you're going to melt your candle wax in, and you can see that I've got some melting here already. And then I don't like to use my own stove eyes, my regular stove eyes, when I melt the candle wax, because no matter how clean you think you've gotten this, there's always a little bit of wax down on the bottom, and I'd much rather the wax get on this little Muncie burner than over on my real stove eye. So I just like to, I think this might have been 20 bucks at Walmart years ago. You can get them pretty cheap. I just like to use this instead of my stove eye to melt my wax. And then of course you're going to need some containers. After you buy your wax, you're going to need some containers to pour your wax down into to make your candles, and then you're going to need some candle wicks. And if you want to fragrance your candles or color them, Candle Science does have some fantastic fragrance oils, and then they also have these little dye chips, and they're just these little tiny, very concentrated chips of color that you can break off and then put into your container of melting wax. Now, when I am making my candles, I don't make up one batch at a time of one fragrance. I like a lot of different fragrances, so I make up a bunch of different fragrances as we go along. And there is a science to how much fragrance oil you add to your wax. But I'm not going to do it that way because, again, I am making individual scents. So Again, I'm going to refer you to the Candle Science website if you ever wanted to make batches at a time of one fragrance of candles. But what I'm doing right here, you can kind of hear it popping, and that means I've got it up too high. I've got my wax melting over here to the side, and I'm going to show you, you can see here how it looks. And this Harmony blend is too high. I'm going to cut off just a little bit more wax here and melt it along with what I have. And be very careful. This is a fun project to do if you have older kids. See what happened? Did you see that mess I just made? This is a fun project to do if you have older kids, like teenagers in the house. I would not do this as a family project with little children because that wax will burn the fire out of you, and you do not want little kids around. Now, I did teach this in my homestead skills class camp for kids, and then I also had a little preschool where we learned things like this. But again, my daughter was helping me and the kids watched. It was more of a demonstration than them actually helping. But anyway, so we are melting our wax here in the container. You don't want to have it turned up too high because you don't want it to crackle and to slowly get up to the melting point and not have it crackle and pop. Now, you're going to need something to hold your wicks in place. Some people take a hot glue gun and they put their wick down in there and they glue them in. I don't have time for that. I don't want to do that. So I just use an old-fashioned clothespin. And I just make sure that there's room, that the tab for the wick is all the way down at the bottom, and then I can use my clothespin to hold it in place like that. And of course it's not going to work because I've got, there we go, that's how I do it. So what we're going to do is, let me make sure this is melting. Yeah, that's going to be melted in just a minute. I am going to put in my fragrance oil. I'm not going to color these just because I like white, kind of creamy colored candles. I'm using two different fragrances today. I'm using pumpkin souffle and vanilla chestnut, and they're both by Candle Science. This vanilla chestnut is fantastic. I'm crazy about that fragrance. And I'm going to use about a teaspoon of fragrance oil in my candles. And these are 4-ounce candle jars. Now I've got my fragrance oils in my candles. I like a light scent. I don't like an overflowing scent. And you do want to be careful again of how much fragrance oil you add because it may not make your candle burn correctly. You also want to make sure that you get the right size wick for your jars, because I don't know if you've ever bought candles before that it just didn't burn right and maybe just burned straight down the center and didn't burn all the wax off. That was probably because your candle wick that was not the right size for the container. Now all I'm going to do is slowly pour the wax into the jars here, and I like to use these little wooden skewers. They're longer than toothpicks. I like to use those to mix the fragrance oil up. That way I won't ruin a spoon. You can eventually get the wax off of a spoon, but it just takes so much work. I just rather use this and not have to worry about it. Sometimes the fragrance oils that you're using, like in the case of this pumpkin souffle, will slightly color the candle. You can see how it's a little bit tinted here, but that's just going to make your wax prettier. And this just smells fantastic. Now, wherever you choose to make your candles in your home, you want to make sure that they're going to be undisturbed for a little while so that they can set and the wax can dry, because you don't want to be moving these if you can help it. So, again, I'm going to just put my wick in place on the bottom and then place my clothespin, and then just warn everybody in the house not to come around here and mess with these while they're drying. Okay, friends, our candles have been setting for about an hour and the wax has hardened. So what I'm going to do now is just remove that little clothespin and then take my scissors and clip off the wick, and then you can put a little lid on it and then put a label on it if you have a label, if you're thinking of selling these. If you do sell them, there are some rules that you have to follow. You have to put one of these little warning labels about the proper care and handling of candles on the bottoms of your jars. And then you also will need to put some information about your business if you plan on selling them. If not, you can always give these as gifts. People love to receive candles and burn candles. And the best part to me is just lighting one up. And then, oh, the smell. This one, again, is fantastic. This is the vanilla chestnut. The smell is amazing, out of this world amazing. But again, I just wanted to show you a little bit about how I do this, because it's so much fun, and you can learn so much about candle making if you definitely go to candlescience.com and learn all about the wick sizes and the container sizes, the different types of wax, the different types of fragrance oils. There's a whole world to discover about candle making. So I hope that this has piqued your interest just a little bit. And if you make these, let me know. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments section. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.